Millionaire hails a taxi at midnight, shocked to find his college sweetheart behind the wheel. In the heart of a sleepless city pulse, where shadows dance under the flickering streetlights, the night whispered secrets that should stay hidden. At midnight, the air turned thick with an electric charge, every sound deeper, more charged, like a warning siren. There, in his designer suit, Michael Sullivan, a millionaire known for his sharp business mind, found himself shivering despite the warmth of the summer night. He raised a hand, and a yellow cab screeched to a halt, its tires skidding against the asphalt, making his heart race. But what awaited him inside was no ordinary driver. As he opened the door, his breath caught, dread clutched at his throat. Behind the wheel, her auburn hair cascading as if caught in a summer breeze, was Sarah, his college sweetheart, the one he thought he had lost forever. She looked older, yes, with lines of hardship etched alongside those once bright eyes. But it was unmistakable, the familiar warmth and spark that had once lit their youthful dreams. But why was she here, in this cab at this hour? Shock rippled through him, but Sarah's gaze held a hint of something darker, like an unspoken tale teetering on the edge of revelation. The street seemed to hold its breath, as if the entire world had paused just for them, a dramatic tension brimming in the air. The hooded figure lurking by the street corner watched them. Swallowing the moonlight, he seemed out of place, yet somehow central to this midnight rendezvous. "What happened to you?" Michael finally managed, his voice raw with emotions that tangled in his chest. Her lips trembled, masking a deeper story buried beneath layers of loss and regret. The silence grew, stretching out between them like an unbridgeable chasm, and he couldn't help but feel the weight of old memories crowding the cab. The smells of faded perfume and long-lost affection clung to the air. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The tension escalated, skin prickling with unease as Sarah diverted her gaze, biting her lip, as if debating whether to unveil the unseen menace lurking in her life. "I've been working nights," she confessed, a flicker of fear flashing in her eyes. With each passing moment, Michael felt the air grow heavy, thick enough to slice. "There's something I need to tell you." But she hesitated, revealing barely a fraction of the turmoil boiling just beneath her calm exterior. Suddenly, the alleyway shifted, shadows deepening as a loud crash echoed from behind them. Was it just a garbage can? Or could it be something worse, something far more sinister? Michael's heart raced even faster. Fear clenched at his chest. What was Sarah involved in? And what was that dark figure now moving closer? This wasn't just a chance meeting. Something was terribly amiss. And as Sarah's eyes fluttered with urgency, the truth lingered just out of reach, a dangerous secret wrapped in mystery. Where would this surprise encounter lead them? The night had only just begun. The sound of boots crunching on shattered glass broke the moment, splitting the air like a gunshot. Michael stiffened, every instinct screaming for him to flee, yet he stayed rooted, locked in that cab with Sarah, and the turmoil swirled around them. Her hand reached for his, but dropped, as if she feared her own touch could ignite the chaos brewing beyond the windshield. "What was that?" he whispered, his voice tight. The shadows moved again, the figure now closer, emerging from the cover of darkness like a storm cloud ready to unleash hell. There was urgency in Sarah's eyes, a panic that spoke louder than words. She turned fully to face him, her expression a raw mosaic of fear and sorrow. "Michael," she started, but the words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Dark clouds of worry rolled through his mind. Had she run afoul of someone dangerous? Or was she just in over her head? The tapping on the passenger window jolted them both. A figure loomed, face obscured by shadows, but the outline was unmistakable, a threat embodied. "Drive," he ordered, his voice low and menacing. Michael could see the brief glint of a blade reflected in the streetlights, a dagger piercing through the tension between them. "Who is that?" Michael demanded, panic rushing through him like ice. He looked at Sarah. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and an intensity that made his chest tighten. Was she being hunted? Had she been dragged into something darker than the midnight shift of a taxi driver? Just go, Sarah, Michael urged. His heart raced as the driver's gaze flicked toward him, then back to her, demanding her compliance. With shaking hands, Sarah turned the key and the engine roared to life, but not before Michael noticed her face pale, fear now more pronounced than before. I can't do this, she stammered, her voice cracking as she backed the cab into the street. But the figure moved to block their path, stepping closer, the blade glinting ominously again. Faster, Michael shouted, the urge to protect her igniting a fire within him. With a quick glance, she shifted gears, the taxi lunging forward and leaving the dark figure behind, but not without a score of muffled curses that followed like ghosts. Why didn't you tell me? He pressed, the city lights swirling past as adrenaline fueled his desperation. What kind of trouble are you in? I thought it was over, she whispered, barely audible over the thudding of their heartbeats mixed with the revving engine. But I made a mistake, and at that moment, headlights blared from behind, cutting through the darkness like knives, illuminating Sarah's terrified face. Oh no, they found us, she gasped, fear capturing her voice as she accelerated. Michael twisted in his seat, trying to see who was pursuing them. The reality of the scenario sunk in the night was no longer just a chance meeting with an old flame, but a race against something sinister. Who is chasing us? He began to demand, his tone fraying at the edges, but she cut him off. Just drive, Michael. You don't know what they'll do. Her plea hung heavy in the air, and for the first time in years, he felt the weight of being tied to her life in a way he couldn't escape. As he fought against the constrictive fear wrapping around him, the chase intensified. They swerved through streets, each turn promising salvation but delivering more chaos. Who were these people? What did Sarah know that could spell disaster for them both? The night loomed heavy, an abyss ready to swallow them whole. They were hurtling towards something unimaginable, and the only question that pounded in Michael's mind was whether he could protect her from whatever nightmare awaited them. But as they raced into the dark, one truth loomed larger than the rest. What would they find at the end of this reckless drive? Michael's hands gripped the door as he felt the car accelerating, the engine roaring like a wild beast beneath them. Sarah's wide eyes flicked to the rearview mirror constantly, panic dancing across her features in sync with the flashing lights behind. The thudding forest of her heart resonated with his. The raw terror was palpable. Keep going. Don't stop, he urged, and she pressed the pedal down harder. The taxi erupted into a symphony of screeching tires and pounding hearts. The distance between them and their pursuers narrowed and widened in a relentless cycle of dread. Where do I go? She shouted, weaving through alleyways and side streets, each turn a gamble. The city loomed around them, a fortress of shadows. The neon signs were mere flickers of hope in the dark. What do I do? Just keep driving. You're doing great. The words flew out, but Michael's stomach twisted with anxiety. He could see the car tailing them, a dark silhouette ghosting their every move. It looked like a predator stalking its prey, a phantom of fate clawing at them. As they rounded a corner, the wind caught the taxi's windows, and he felt a momentary rush like falling. We need to lose them, he shouted, his voice rising over the chaos. Sarah nodded, determination briefly replacing fear in her eyes. She gunned the engine, and the taxi shot forward, her foot a confident hammer on the throttle. The city blurred, and for a fleeting moment, he dared to hope they might escape. Then came the unmistakable thud. A collision, body metal against metal, and the jolt shot through him. He felt the pain in his shoulders as the car aligned with the rest of the world again, reeling, clutching to sanity. What was that? Sarah gasped, eyes wide with horror, glancing at him as if he held all the answers. Michael peered into the rearview mirror, dread pooling in his stomach. The dark car was closer now, bobbing like it was an unholy specter moving to claim its victim. I think they hit us. Why? Her voice trembled. What do they want? He searched for answers in the storm of their situation. What past had Sarah hidden, one so dangerous it haunted them now? How can you not know? She interrupted, her innocence fraying under the pressure of the night. The taxi screeched helplessly to a stop at a red light. No, keep moving, he yelled. But she was frozen, staring outside at the shadow that loomed ever closer, the driver's face now illuminated by the light of the street lamps. Michael's eyes widened as the realization struck. "They're coming for you," he murmured, a chill washing over him. "You're in serious trouble." Her voice cracked, but he wouldn't let her break down. Suddenly, a figure leaped out of the pursuing vehicle, sprinting toward them, knife glinting like a shooting star. "Drive. Now!" he screamed, the panic screeching through his throat. Sarah jolted back into action, lurching the car forward as Michael glanced fearfully at the man barreling closer. They tore through the light, not a second to spare, but the man blew past the stop, a projectile of lunacy and rage chasing their escape. The cab moved like a heartbeat, pulsing to a rhythm only fear could conduct. "Why didn't you tell me?" He pressed again, desperation clawing up his throat. "What did you do?" "I didn't want you involved." She shot back, tears threatening to spill. "I thought if I left it all behind I didn't think they would find me." The weight of her words sank deep, and a wave of regret washed over him. Her past echoed in the night behind them, and the darkness screamed at him. Were they forever entangled in this horror? Suddenly, sirens blared from a distance, piercing the veil of terror around them. "What's that?" "I don't know, just drive," she urged, twisting the wheel and darting down another dark alley. What fate awaited them in the winding streets that closed in around their frantic escape? Would anyone come to their aid, or were they forever to be hunted in the shadows? As the sirens grew louder, a sharp breath caught in his chest. For every moment that passed, the nightmare deepened. A new fear clawed at him. They weren't safe yet. And with each footfall echoing behind, he couldn't shake the question that splintered through his mind. What if Sarah's past was darker than he could ever imagine? The taxi careened through the twisting streets of the city, the glow of red and blue lights flickering in the background like a bad dream that wouldn't fade. Each time Sarah glanced in the mirror, Michael felt his heart stop. The dark car still pursued, relentless as a shadow, while the sirens grew louder but didn't seem to be getting closer. "Faster. We have to get out of sight," he urged, his voice taut with urgency. She gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, and pressed the gas as if it were the only thing keeping them alive. "Where? Where can I go?" Her voice was thick with desperation, and Michael could see her reflection, fear etched across her face. "Follow that street. The one with the alley." He pointed frantically as they approached the intersection. It looked like a narrow escape route, but would it be enough? Sarah took the turn, slamming against her side of the car as they entered the twisting alleyway. The walls rose high on either side, a suffocating cocoon that made it feel like they were being swallowed alive. Michael risked a glance over his shoulder, and his blood turned to ice. The dark car had turned in after them. "Oh God," he whispered. "They're still coming." The echo of their pursuer's engine throbbed like a heartbeat behind them. Panic gripped him tighter. He looked at Sarah. She was paler than he had ever seen her. "What did you do, Sarah?" he asked again, the words now a rasp in his throat. "You need to tell me everything." "Enough. I can't. I want tea." She snapped back, her frustration cutting through the haze of fear. "I thought it was over." But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. What could they have left undone? Who was chasing them? What had she buried in her past that could dredge such horrors back to life? As if in response to his unspoken thoughts, a loud bang ricocheted off the alley walls. His heart dropped. He risked another glance back and spotted the figure jumping from the car, the same man who had hurtled toward them before. He was drawing closer now, weapon glistening menacingly in the dim light. "Drive, Sarah. Just drive. I see an exit up ahead." Michael pointed, and she held on to the belief that maybe, just maybe, they could break free. They shot out of the alley, tires shrieking as they hit the street once more. The surge of adrenaline pumped through him, almost as if they had broken free from shackles, but the thrill was fleeting. The dark car was still behind them, unfazed, and now the knife-wielding figure was climbing back in pursuit. "Where now?" she yelled, her voice strained with exertion and fear. "Just keep going straight." He scanned ahead, spotting a glimmer of life, bright lights ahead, a small diner on the corner. "Get us to that diner. We can call for help." "Will they help us?" She shot back, doubt heavy in her tone. "I don't know, but we can't keep running forever." The diner loomed larger as they drew closer, a beacon in the pit of despair. Maybe there they would find someone who could unravel the urgency of their situation. But even as they approached, Michael could sense something dark settled in the pit of his stomach. The moment they pulled into the parking lot, Their sanctuary became a stage set for impending chaos. They screeched to a halt. Michael's eyes widened. Outside the diner, a group of men stood near the entrance, faces clouded with expressions Michael didn't like. They were looking in their direction, eyes hard like stone. "Sarah, don't stop. We have to keep moving." But she was frozen again, caught in the headlights of hidden dangers. Michael's gut twisted. Were these men allies or more hunters? In that fleeting moment, Sarah finally turned to meet his gaze, her expression shifting from fear to resolve. "I need to tell you something. Now, before they catch us," but the sound of the dark car pulling into the lot stole his breath away. The figure leaping out again made Michael's chest tighten painfully. "Talk fast," he urged, heart pounding hard enough to echo in his ears. "What are we really up against?" The words hung in the air as the approaching figure raised his knife, ready to strike. Whatever secret Sarah had been holding might not make it out of this nightmare. And as fear seeped into every crevice of the moment, one question remained: when would they confront the truth of her past? The man with the knife moved toward them, his face narrowing into a predatory grin. Michael could sense danger seeping into the air like poison, and every ounce of rational thought screamed to escape. "Sarah, do something," he shouted, desperation tightening his chest until it felt like a vice. "Get out. Run." Sarah's voice broke through, slicing through the terror. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, she flung open her door, her legs moving before she even thought it through. Michael followed suit, heart hammering in his chest as they hit the asphalt, the cold night air biting his exposed skin. They sprinted away from the diner, feet pounding against the pavement, the echoes of harsh laughter and footsteps crashing behind them. The group of men had shifted their attention from the diner door to them, their expressions shifting like predators spotting their prey. He could feel their eyes piercing into the back of his skull. "Left," he barked, veering sharply as they entered a narrow side street, alley shadows closing in around them. The dark car's engine roared behind them, its unresolved thirst for revenge echoing ominously through the deserted city. Michael's mind raced. Why were they being hunted? He had always believed Sarah's past was that of a sweet, unassuming girl. Now, it felt tainted with darkness, a life he hadn't known existed. But there was no time to ponder the intricacies of her history now. Who were those men? He gasped, glancing over to see fear transforming Sarah's features into something hardened and resolute. "People I wronged. They want to settle the score," she stammered between breaths, vulnerability creeping into her voice for the first time. Each word dripped with the weight of secrets she had buried deep, and Michael felt that mix of anger and confusion welling up inside. "Settle the score? Sarah, I don't understand." His voice cracked. "What score? You're not safe with me," she gasped, her sneak peek into her reality breaking him like glass. "I thought I could escape, but they found me. They always find me." The echo of footsteps and shouted curses echoed behind them. The men were relentless. Despair threatened to claw at his resolve, yet Michael refused to falter. They barreled deeper into the unknown, aiming for an old warehouse at the edge of the street he had spotted before. "Over there," he shouted, pointing toward the gray structure looming like a ghost. They burst through a broken door, just as a shout pierced the night, a guttural command that made Michael's blood run cold. "Find them." Bursting into the dark, musty interior, the air was stale, the silence suffocating. Shadows danced ominously about them as they found themselves in a vast room filled with crates and long-forgotten memories. Dust motes floated in the faint beams of moonlight filtering through the cracks, making it both eerie and hauntingly beautiful. "Quick, we need to hide," Sarah urged, darting behind a stack of crates. Michael followed her, heart racing. They pressed into the darkness, the cold wood biting against his body, but adrenaline numbed the pain. Hiding won't solve any of this, he whispered fiercely, wanting answers. The harshness of her reality loomed over them, and he had to know. "What did you do? Why do they want you dead?" Suddenly, footsteps thundered into the warehouse. Glass shattered somewhere nearby as the dark figures burst through the door, ready to toss the place upside down. With no escape in sight, Michael's breath quickened. He felt the walls closing in around him. "Stay quiet," Sarah hissed, her eyes darting nervously, but in the midst of his fear, something in his mind sparked. "Maybe we can turn this around," he whispered as determination flooded his veins. If we confront them, maybe are you crazy? She interrupted, eyes wide. But a new resolve settled on her face, a flicker of something he hadn't seen yet. Before he could say anything else, the men's voices carried through the space, cutting through the tension. They have to be here. Check the back. Michael's heart raced, a clock ticking down to the moment of confrontation. This was it. There was no hiding now. As the shadows grew closer, Sarah leaned in, her voice low but fierce. If we get out of this alive, I promise to tell you everything. Just stay close. And just like that, the veil of secrecy promised to lift. Michael clenched his fists, resolute. Together, they would face whatever demons awaited them. But as the figures rounded the corner, glinting knives ready, Michael wondered what the truth would really cost them. Would they be able to survive the revelations waiting just beyond the darkness? An eerie silence fell over the warehouse, thick enough to cut with a knife. The men, shadows flitting through the dim light, moved with purpose. Michael held his breath, dependence on the darkness engulfing them growing heavier by the second. Adrenaline pumped through him as if echoing the thudding of his heart. Michael, they're getting closer, Sarah whispered, her voice laced with a crunching fear. He turned his gaze towards her, the once strong girl now vulnerable, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. Trust me, he murmured, but doubt gnawed at him like a tangled mess inside. He hadn't signed up for this, but here they were literally fighting for their lives. Did you hear that? One of the men barked, halting mere feet from their hiding place. Michael watched as the man's shadow loomed, dark and menacing. They're here. Check those crates. The urgency in the man's voice sent a chill down Michael's spine. He could picture them, blades flickering like fireflies, ready to spill blood in the night. Stay still, he said to Sarah, gripping her hand. She nodded, teeth clenched, her whole body tense as if bracing for an unwanted blow. The first figure approached the stack of crates. Michael swallowed hard. The lump in his throat felt like betrayal. They were inches away from being discovered. The darkness held its breath. So did he? Found anything? The second man shouted. The first shrugged, mouthing a curse before moving on to the next stack. The tension was almost unbearable as both men shuffled closer and closer. Breathe, he reminded himself. Just breathe. Suddenly, the men's faces snapped toward a noise, a clang of metal, a scrap of driftwood rolling on the concrete. It felt like an eternity before they turned back to their search. Faster, Sarah urged, panic radiating off her. They're going to find us. Just as the danger seemed to elevate, Michael's mind sparked again. Maybe there's another way out, he hissed, scanning the dark expanse for an exit. We have to move before they find us. Then, almost instinctively, he yanked her hand, steering them deeper into the shadows, away from the light, and into the belly of the warehouse. The further they ventured, the more he regretted letting curiosity lead him. In the gloom, he spotted a door at the far end, his heart leaping. It could be their ticket out. He took Sarah's hand, and they crept towards the exit, matching their steps to the sound of chaos echoing behind them. But just as they reached the door, a figure darted in front of them, one of their pursuers. The man's eyes widened in astonishment. Freeze! He yelled. Time slowed. Michael's instincts kicked in. He pulled Sarah behind him, pushing against the wall as the man lunged. Run! He shouted as he planted a fist in the man's gut, knocking the wind out of him. Drumming inside his chest urged him on. They had to get out. Michael, we need to go? Sarah's voice shot through him like ice, fear anchoring his feet. But that fear fused with adrenaline, and he took off, dragging Sarah behind him towards the door. Stay focused, he grunted. Just as they were nearly past the threshold, a harsh grip caught his shoulder, yanking him back, while Sarah stumbled ahead. Don't you dare no, he shouted, breaking free from the man's grasp. Driven by sheer instinct, he kicked backward with everything he had. The man staggered, but Michael's chance was slipping away as more figures invaded their escape route. He ran towards Sarah, whose frantic eyes searched desperately for an escape, when a shout from behind stopped him in his tracks. Stop right there. From the shadows emerged the face that haunted Sarah's nightmares, a man he immediately recognized, standing there with a predatory grin reminiscent of the first man they had encountered. The fear in Sarah's eyes told him everything he needed to know. Sarah, what have you done? In that moment, The breath caught in Michael's throat as the weight of her secrets threatened to crush them both. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about confronting the shadows of her past. The warehouse echoed with heavy tension, the confrontation inevitable. Sarah's face turned ashen. Michael, she started, terror etched into her features. Just tell me the truth, he shouted, urgency battling with disbelief as the men encircled them like wolves ready to feast. As her lips opened to speak, the sound of metal clinked behind him, a certain finality to it. Would they survive this reckoning, or would the truth about Sarah's past seal their fate? The darkness felt alive around them again, whispering secrets. And then, there it was, the question hung in the air. Would the truth set them free or entrap them forever? Every heartbeat thundered in Michael's ears, drowning out Sarah's voice as she struggled to articulate what lurked beneath her surface. The mission to survive twisted into a knot of dread, and that dread wrapped tighter around them with each breath. Michael, as she stuttered, eyes darting toward the advancing men. Every inch closer they crept magnified the weight of her secret. The man in the shadows grinned wider, unsettling both of them. Does she want to tell you? Or should I? His voice dripped with mockery, slicing through the air. What secrets lived inside Sarah? What had she walked away from to drag them both into this nightmare? Gritting his teeth, Michael prepared himself. He had to keep them both alive. Sarah, please, we can't do this here, he pleaded, glancing nervously at the masked figures that tightened their circle. Michael, it's not what you think, she urged urgently. The words felt like a lifeline thrown from a sinking ship. The lead man, the one with a dark smirk and an unmistakable edge, took a step forward. Oh, I think it's exactly what I want to know. Who would have known this sweet girl was carrying secrets that could get someone killed? Back off, Michael growled. He felt the fire of determination surge through him. No one would hurt her, not while he still stood. But the man only laughed, the sound chilling. What's the matter, hero? You think you can protect her? The past always catches up, kid. Mark my words. With every word, every step they took, Michael could see Sarah's resolve cracking. Please, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. That whispered cry wrapped a noose around his heart. They needed to regroup, to think. But as Michael shifted his weight, he saw the frantic desperation in her eyes, a flicker of something deeper. He realized the truth, and it nearly knocked the breath from him. Was she part of this whole mess? Before he could voice his suspicion, a commotion erupted behind him as another figure burst into the warehouse, a sleek silhouette emerging from the doorway. Michael's breath hitched as he recognized the newcomer. A third player in this deadly game, someone Michael never expected to see. Michael, she shouted, no hesitation in her voice, and suddenly, the tension twisted like a knife, cutting deeper. Get down, he shouted, instinctively shielding Sarah. The warehouse erupted with chaos as the air hissed with movement, a mixture of shouts and the metallic clash of impending violence that in that split second, shockwaves rippled through him. Whoever had come in was not an ally, yet no one seemed to know if they were friend or foe. The new figure, another ghost from Sarah's past, held a gun, its barrel reflecting the dim lights, poised menacingly in their direction. Put that down, the leader barked, targeting the intruder with hostility. Step away from her, the new arrival demanded, stepping closer, their grip on the weapon steady, unwavering. The standoff crystallized, a stillness hinging on a knife's edge. Michael's heart raced, the world around him narrowing into a raw, sharp focus. The realization that they were far from safe swirled in his mind like a disorienting fog. Michael, it's not what you think, Sarah screamed, her voice cutting through the tension, desperation painted across her features. But the truth was already hanging in the air, thick, heavy, and sharp. The clock ticked down, and in that moment, they were all caught, suspended in this dangerous web of lies and revelations. Then, as if to shatter the fragile moment, the distant sound of sirens pierced the chaos, a beacon of potential salvation or destruction. Which direction would it take them? Get ready, Michael whispered. They were on the brink, faced with collapsing truths and the epitome of betrayal. And then he understood. It wasn't just their lives hanging in the balance. The real revelation was still waiting in the shadows. Who would emerge unscathed when the truth finally unraveled the pattern of their fates? The moment hung in the air, electrifying and suffocating all at once. Michael's instincts screamed at him to act. He could sense the tension vibrating in the warehouse, the way fear twisted through the shadows and wrapped around them. The sirens drew closer, each wail sending a fresh wave of panic through him. "Put the gun down. It's not worth it," Michael shouted, hoping to snap his old friend back to reality. Her eyes flared with a mix of panic and determination, but she kept the weapon trained on the leader. "Let him go," she insisted, her voice steady yet laced with an undeniable tremor. The masked men exchanged calculated glances, their movements slow but purposeful. Sarah's breath quickened beside him. He could see the conflict swirling in her expression. This was no simple encounter. This was all too personal. Michael could only imagine the history that lay beneath the surface. "Do you really think you can control this?" The leader taunted, stepping closer, edging toward the fragile piece. "You're just digging your grave deeper. Don't you dare talk to her that way." It was a desperate plea, rising from the pit of Michael's stomach. He didn't have a plan, not yet, but his heart overflowed with an urgency to shield Sarah from whatever danger loomed. "Matthew, put the gun down." A new voice cut through the fires of confrontation, low and calm from the back of the room. The atmosphere shifted again as an older man emerged from the shadows, his expression shrouded in anxiety, yet revealing authority. "This isn't the way. Stay out of this, Caleb." Matthew shot back, his voice biting. "You have no idea what she's involved in." Caleb's brow furrowed, and Michael recognized a flicker of guilt crossing his face. Another layer of the puzzle, another shadow wrapped in secrets. Glancing at Sarah, he saw tears glistening in her eyes. "Focus, Sarah," he whispered, trying to ground her in the chaos. "Tell me you're not part of this." "I didn't want to bring you into it, Michael," she blurted, shaking her head as if the truth could be willed away. "Enough of this. You don't have to make it worse," Matthew shouted, his hands tightening around the weapon. The sirens were now blaring through the warehouse's open doors, the red and blue lights flickering like a beacon of impending doom. Michael's mind raced. There was no time left, and in that moment, he felt the weight of every chance sliding from his grasp. "Get ready to run," he said suddenly, pulling Sarah closer. He made eye contact with Caleb, sensing a flicker of understanding there. "The cops are coming for you, Matthew. You want to draw this out? You're putting yourself in more danger," Caleb urged, his voice a thin thread of reason amidst the overwhelming chaos. In that charged instant, the tension snapped. Shots rang out. Michael couldn't tell whose gun went off. The sound ricocheted through him, heart pounding like a drum in his ears. And then the lights went out. The warehouse plunged into darkness, an impenetrable veil descending. Michael felt Sarah's grip tighten around his arm as he stumbled, blinded and disoriented. Panic surged through him, choking and raw. He grabbed her hand, counting on instinct to guide them through the enveloping blackness. "Michael, where are we?" Her voice trembled, fear slicing through the murky void. "Stay close. Don't let go," he shouted back, adrenaline propelling him toward what he hoped was the exit. Behind them, muffled shouts fractured the dark, echoing like a chorus of lost souls. The sirens faded into the background, leaving only the clamor of heavy breathing and lurking shadows. In the eerie silence, Michael knew this was far from over. Whatever had ignited here was only the first spark. He could feel the tensions twisting, and just below the surface lay a truth that could shatter everything. "Sarah, we need to find a way out now," he urged, urgency clawing at his throat. The darkness pressed around them like a living thing, and in those harrowing moments, escape became their only hope. But as they moved, Michael caught a flicker of shadows dancing against the walls. Who else was lurking in the dark, drawn toward the chaos? And then he realized this fight was only beginning. What had they unleashed, and more importantly, what would be the cost of uncovering the truth? The darkness felt alive, thick with an oppressive weight that made Michael's heart race. Every breath he took was sharp, as if he were inhaling shards of glass. Sarah's grip tightened around his arm, her warm palm a small comfort in this consuming void. "Keep moving," he urged again, his voice strained. They stumbled forward, feet skimming over the cold concrete floor, each step a leap into the unknown. The warehouse had become a nightmarish maze, their senses heightened to every creak and rustle echoing through the endless shadows. Then, a sudden rush of bodies, barely visible outlines colliding with them. The jarring sensation knocked them both off balance. Michael instinctively raised his hands, ready to push back against whoever had invaded their space. "Who is there?" he called into the darkness, anger bubbling in his chest, grappling with fear. "It's just us." A voice, hoarse and frantic, cutting through the murk. It was Caleb. Michael could feel the force of his presence, even if he couldn't see him. "Over here. We need to stick together." Even in the gloom, Caleb's urgency resonated with the urgency of sirens still wailing faintly outside, threatening to engulf them in whatever madness had erupted. Michael pulled Sarah further into the shadows, praying to keep them hidden. "Caleb," Michael whispered urgently, "you need to tell me what is happening." His mind raced, trying to stitch together the pieces of this dangerous puzzle. What did Matthew mean about Sarah? Silence hung between them, heavy and terrifying. Caleb took a breath that sounded ragged, filled with the weight of unspoken truths. "It's complicated, Michael. Sarah's tied to a world that enough." Matthew's voice shattered the fragile calm, booming like a storm against the rain. "You think you can just run from this?" Michael clenched his fists, ready to confront the man who had dragged them all into this chaos. "You're insane," he shouted back, but before he could gather himself, more gunfire erupted, splintering the tension like glass shattering underfoot. "Get down," Caleb barked, dragging Sarah and Michael to the ground just as bullets whizzed through the air above them. The haunting sound ricocheted against the walls, twisting into a terrifying symphony with their ragged breaths. The darkness swallowed them, but a dim light suddenly flickered to life, illuminating the edges of the chaos, exposing shadows that danced like spirits lost in despair. Michael peered around, catching sight of figures moving almost gracefully through the calamity, their outlines sharp against the faint light. "Go. We have to split up," Caleb urged, his eyes wide with dread. "Find a way to safety." Michael shook his head, panic colliding with instinct. "No. We stay together." But before he could protest further, Caleb darted into the fray, disappearing into the shadows, leaving Michael and Sarah to face the imminent threat alone. "Michael, what do we do?" Sarah's voice quivered, lacing her tone with despair. He grasped her shoulders, searching her eyes. "We trust each other. We'll find another way out." As they started to inch forward, a deafening blare of shouts erupted from behind, reverberating through the warehouse. The unmistakable sound of footsteps closing in, echoing their desperation. "Where do we go?" Sarah gasped, scanning the darkness. But before Michael could respond, a figure emerged just up ahead, an imposing silhouette. "Look out!" A voice snarled, and time seemed to freeze. Michael shoved Sarah aside just as the figure lunged. But in that very moment, everything spiraled, and they both fell. As the world pitched wildly around them, Michael realized they were caught in a snare deeper than he could have ever imagined. In the chaos, he caught a fleeting glimpse. Two faces mingled in the strobe of the dim light, eyes wide with fear and rage. Was that? And then darkness fell once more, swallowing everything they thought they understood. "Michael!" Sarah's scream shattered the void, igniting the drive within him to escape whatever fate was waiting in the dark. They were caught in a deadly game or not. Everyone would survive. As the echoes of the unknown pressed around them, a chilling thought crept in: how many secrets would they have to uncover to make it out alive? The chaos around Michael and Sarah was a storm, swirling with anger, fear, and desperation. Every flicker of movement sent their hearts racing. Crouched behind a crate, they felt the weight of history pressing down, a burden tangled with secrets yet to be unveiled. Panic lingered in the air, and Michael could almost taste the fear hanging heavily between them. "Michael, what do we do?" Sarah's voice shook, but there was a fire in her eyes, a glimmer of her old self fighting against the darkness. "We find a way out," he grunted, steeling himself. The faces of their pursuers were etched in his mind, familiar, yet terrifying. "Trust me," he added, determination flooding through him like electricity. They took a breath, moved together, and burst forward, adrenaline surging. The warehouse swallowed them in shadows, the route ahead fuzzy with uncertainty. Untamed instincts guided them as they dodged around machinery and debris, every footfall echoing danger. Silence almost felt like a reward in the intensity of their flight. "We need to split up," Michael hissed as they approached a daunting fork in their path. He fought to catch his breath, desperation thickening his words. Are you kidding? Are you insane? Sarah countered, horror written all over her face. Trust me, he shouted, internal conflict raging. He couldn't let her become another victim of this twisted fate. I'll meet you, it's our best chance. He sent her a fierce look, willing her to see reason, the reality of the moment crashing down. Fine, she snapped, but you better find me. She dashed down one corridor as he took off in another, the pulse of uncertainty thickening the air, filling the space as surely as the ticking clock of impending confrontation. With every step, doubt crept in, but Michael pushed it aside. He navigated through dimly lit rooms, searching, hoping to weave his way back to her. Each corner felt like a gamble, every echo a reminder of the stakes. Then, a sound sliced through the darkness, a scream, sharp and piercing, ricocheting off the walls like a bullet. It was Sarah's voice, a raw cry that made his heart drop. Fear ignited something primal inside him. Sarah, he shouted, pounding toward the source, desperation propelling him like a bullet. Floorboards creaked beneath his hurried steps as memories of their bond flooded through his mind. College days, laughter under the stars, whispered dreams, and now this catastrophic swirl of chaos. As he rounded a corner, he froze, heart pounding. In front of him stood a chaotic scene, a confrontation that sent chills racing down his spine. Sarah, backed against a wall, a knife-wielding figure looming over her, eyes wild with an unrestrained fury. The man's silhouette was unmistakable. You thought you could run? His voice dripped with venom. Get away from her. Michael roared, feeling an unfamiliar surge of power course through him. Don't you dare touch her. Michael. Sarah's voice was a lifeline, but panic flared in her eyes. Before he could think, he charged forward, determination fueling every ounce of his strength. He barreled into the man, throwing them both to the ground, the air crackling with raw energy as chaos erupted. They wrestled, fists colliding and the weight of fury mixing with fear. A glint of metal caught Michael's eye as the blade flashed dangerously close, and something snapped inside him. This was it. He had to protect her, no matter the cost. Get away from my friend. He grunted, fighting back against the terrible urge to succumb to fear. With every thrash and grab, he could feel the whispers of Sarah's past haunting him. But he pushed through, focusing on the here and now. That a punch landed against his jaw, sending him reeling. But Sarah's cry spurred him back to the fight. With renewed determination, he tackled the man off Sarah, finding a wild strength he didn't know he possessed. You're done. Michael spat, adrenaline surging as he pinned the man down. But it was clear that these shadows had more than one face. The chaos was far from over. Their past loomed heavy in front of them, and the darkness became a relentless adversary. Michael, behind you, Sarah shouted, and just as he spun, another figure approached, knife drawn. A flash of silver, a rush of movement, and then shouting echoed in the warehouse. A squad came bursting through the door, strong and commanding, only to catch the flash of chaos unfolding. Stop! Police! Their voices rang with authority, men and women springing forward, rails of judgment ringing through the air. Reality flashed, a cascade of red and blue lights flooding the warehouse, illuminating the corners of darkness, threatening to engulf them all. The rush of salvation was a visceral wind, sweeping through the chaos with purpose. Michael, let him go, one officer shouted, ordering more men to tackle the masked figures who had turned to escape. With a flash of freedom, Michael pushed himself away from the man, breathing hard, relief pulsing through him. He turned to Sarah, whose wide eyes flickered between fear and hope. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? He asked, breathless. I'm fine, but what is happening? She said, desperation flecking her words as the police cuffed the aggressors around them. This is it, Sarah. Your past, everything is finally coming to light. He whispered. We'll be safe, but you have to trust me. She nodded. Uncertainty etched across her features as she tried to comprehend the patterns woven around them. I didn't know it would lead to this, she admitted, tears pooling as the gravity weighed on her. Michael's heart ached for her. You're more than your past. We'll figure it out together. You don't have to face this alone anymore. As officers began surrounding them, their voices brought a sense of reality tying the night together. They were on the brink of something new and intertwined with hope. The darkness was slipping away, making room for light, and within that certainty, they found a renewed bond. As they watched the remaining shadows dissipate into the police cars, he turned to her, a fierce determination gleaming in his eyes. Together, we'll navigate this. We'll take it one step at a time. And maybe, just maybe, the old wounds would finally have a chance to heal, leading them toward a brighter horizon. The chaos of the night faded, but the flicker of hope ignited a new beginning. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this intense journey unfolds. Your support is what makes all this possible.